It's no secret that the world of gaming content creation and also competitive gaming have had some very serious issues over the last few years. We've seen a lot of discourse around allegations of a sexual nature against figureheads of these communities. We've seen people be rightfully condemned as depraved and immoral, or we've seen people be smeared with these labels, which is horrible as it hurts an innocent person's reputation forever, and it makes it harder for real victims to come forward. In some rare cases, the person gets proven to be guilty and still somehow gets away with it. Normally, when a creator is accused, whether true or false, it always seems to stick with them. However, a select few have been able to mainly get away from their scandal, and from the outside looking in, seemingly unscathed. An example of this being gaming content creator RelaxAlax. Alex Carducci is known for producing well-edited videos discussing video games, such as the popular fighting game franchise Super Smash Bros. He produced a popular series on the game called Know Your Moves, which documented and discussed moves fighters in Smash Bros. Could do. He also has a second channel where he streams regularly, and he also creates music. His main channel has received almost 500,000 subscribers, and he's made multiple videos that have garnered over 1 million views, even being quoted in mainstream media news articles regarding issues with the YouTube platform. Because of his success, he's been able to collaborate with some of the biggest gaming content creators around, such as appearances in Scott the Waz's big yearly projects, playing the main villain in It's Awesome Baby, and having a brief cameo in Borderline Forever. Alex has also collaborated with gaming content creator AlphaRad. However, in 2019, he was accused of sexually assaulting his ex-girlfriend, among other allegations. As of writing this, there is no good video or article going over the situation. So for this video, I'm going to document what happened publicly, and I will also be presenting brand new statements from people involved in the situation, including from Alex and Scott the Waz. The origins and the timeline of the allegations are a little hard to follow, but from my research, and by reaching out to people involved, Alex's accuser started making subtweets about him sometime around May 2019. Alex's accuser, at the time known as Bobdunga or Raven, now more commonly known as Ramona, is a popular creator. As of now, she boasts a very impressive portfolio, being featured in mainstream media and being partnered and/or sponsored with McDonald's, among other huge corporations. In April, there appears to have been a few subtweets made, but they can be so vague at times, so I can't 100% say for sure they're about him. In some of these tweets, Ray discusses relationships and talks about how people with big follower counts aren't automatically good people. Near the end of April is where we start to see her discuss a narcissist, a term she would later use to describe Alex. In early May, we can see her starting to join in on conversations regarding the topic of sexual abuse. She would vocally support other women who had come forward around this time against other content creators. Ray also started to strongly insinuate that she had also been a victim. She would later cite Heidi, ProJared's ex-wife, as her inspiration to come forward, as in 2019, ProJared was accused of many things by a few different people, including sexting with underage fans and cheating on his wife. Around the middle of May is where Ray started making direct allegations, releasing screenshots of text messages and names Alex. She claims a content creator had his friends stalk her. This individual had also told his 200 plus Patreon supporters that they had broken up, which led to her being harassed. Another tweet she would make was that someone in a position of power, who she was romantically involved with, abused said power. During the early hours of May 14th, she tweeted that consent is important, and if you fear being exposed, you shouldn't have done it. That evening, she started a thread going into detail about what she's been vaguely talking about, with evidence to help legitimize her claims. Her thread discusses being sexually and emotionally abused. She describes the abuse as very calculated. She would update her thread into the next day. Ray says the person did apologize to her, but she felt it was damage control to stop her from going public with their identity, and she was upset this person still wouldn't return an item, posting screenshots of a text conversation about said items. In the replies to these tweets, she confirmed she was talking about RelaxAlax. In the midst of all these tweets, she started adding on to her allegations regarding being stalked. claiming her abuser said, "They don't control what their friends do." To try and avoid them reading her tweets, she set her account to private. One of these individuals then requested to follow. This part of the story is very important. Ray making her account private was what slowed the spread of her allegations originally. In the screenshot showcasing one of these people requesting to follow her locked account becomes an essential piece of her evidence. She will go on to reference this multiple times. On May 16th, she created a new thread in which she opens up by naming Alex, continuing to push her allegations, saying at one point he admitted to it, then went back to denying it. Ray also stated Alex had threatened to sue her. On May 17th, she responded to Heidi, claiming Alex would gaslight and manipulate her. Some time would pass without anything too notable happening. That was until May 30th. On May 30th, Alex made a tweet claiming an ex-partner, whom he referred to as the other party, was accusing him of abuse, and also sending people to monitor her Twitter and harass her. While he said he made mistakes in their relationship, he denied the allegations of abuse and sending people to harass her, in a statement that seemed to be looked over by a lawyer. On the same day as Alex's tweet, she responded by saying he was a liar who was engaging in damage control. She also provided screenshots that she claimed disproved what he said regarding her harassment and stalking allegations. These screenshots included Alex's sister following her on Twitter and him admitting he told some of his Patreon supporters about their breakup. When he found out people were reaching out about him to her, he said he didn't like what they were doing, but ultimately, he isn't in control of their actions. What has been provided by Raven doesn't disprove anything he said. This isn't evidence that he sent people to harass her, nor prove stalking. In fact, this just continues to prove what he had already said. He admitted he told some of his Patreon supporters, who he considered his friends, but he never told them to harass or do anything. Now, this part is a little confusing. In the Discord messages, Alex mentions he has 200 Patreon supporters, which appears to be accurate by looking at archived pages on the Wayback Machine. However, this message implies he told all of them about the breakup. But there is no evidence I could find that shows that he did, and I would imagine if he actually did tell hundreds of people about his breakup and had them talk to her on his behalf, wouldn't the screenshot of that been shared everywhere? As this video progresses, we'll get to see evidence that indicates what he said in his Twitter statement is true. On May 31st, a twitlonger was posted by Ray, which got some traction on Twitter. The twitlonger is broken up into 3 parts. The first part opens up, stating she had actually tweeted about the situation weeks before. As we've been over, since she made her account private, most people didn't see her statements. So her twitlonger was created to help preserve and amplify her original statements and claims made weeks before, and to respond to Alex's statement. The second part of the twitlonger, which is just a copy of her originally planned statement, starts off with accusing him of being highly manipulative. After learning about the trauma she had, he used it against her. She goes on to describe Alex as a mean and inconsistent person, someone who can't make up their mind, from who he wants to edit his content, to if he even wanted to keep dating Ray. This made her feel like she was a burden. He would flex how much money he would make and mock her financial situation, allegedly saying things to her like, "You can't even afford gas." He also offered her the ability to move in with him and then took it away and moved in someone else. Alex held his internet clout above her head, using the fact he shouted out her channel against her. She also alleges Alex himself claimed he lacks empathy and doesn't feel love. Other allegations include things like making her self-conscious by mocking her hyperpigmentation. After making her self-conscious, they would make up. In the day after, Alex would then try to gaslight her about it. She also accused Alex of not returning one or more items following their breakup. The main, and from what I can tell only, item she wanted back was a painting she made. In her Twitter threads, she supplied screenshots of him giving reasons for why he won't give it back. These reasons being he just wants to personally have the item, and that he would rather throw it away than give it to her. Alex would also apparently try to triangulate her with his friends. So if there was an issue, Alex would have one of his friends play mediator. Although she claims, before they talked to her, he would frame her as a broken person by mentioning her previous history with being abused. Ray claims she felt one of these mediators was inappropriately involved in the relationship. This part of the twitlonger ends with the most serious allegations. She claims after a lot of drinking at a party, while she was drunk, Alex took advantage of her. She was then also guilt-tripped into apologizing for it. She claims she didn't even know there was sexual activity until Alex brought it up to her afterwards, claiming she made him uncomfortable during sex. When Alex gave her his retelling of events, Ray came onto him while she was drunk. Alex also said she was having him do a bunch of acts that he and also she was not comfortable with. She claims he was not drunk, and in later statements, that he was sober. Ray also states when she called the domestic abuse hotline, they told her she might have been drugged, which terrified her. When they had sex again following this incident, he requested she do the acts he previously claimed made him uncomfortable. Ray also claims another female content creator at one point reached out to her and claimed she also had a weird experience with him. The third part of the twitlonger basically just says believe her or not, and she thanks the people who've been supportive of her. After the release of the twitlonger, she posted yet another screenshot showcasing Alex's friends, who she alleges tried to contact her on his behalf, now blocked by her on Twitter, in a screenshot of one of these supposed friends defending him in her replies. On the 1st of June, she states Alex used flying monkeys and engaged in a narcissist's smear campaign. I wasn't familiar with these terms. The term flying monkeys originates from the Wizard of Oz. In this context, a flying monkey is a middleman a narcissist uses to get information and hurt their victim through proxy. A narcissist smear campaign is when a narcissist works to smear the victim, normally with the goal of cutting them off from their support circle. Following the release of the twitlonger, Ray would make more statements. In June, she tweeted that anyone who stood by her rapist, who had people harass her and made her feel suicidal, to fuck off. Also in June, she created a really interesting and noteworthy thread. It contained screenshots of the deceased streamer Etika, in which she appears to be giving advice to Ray on how to deal with an abusive person. Many speculated it might have been about Alex. I also found an old screenshot of her Twitter deep into the production of this video, where she claims Etika didn't like Alex. She posted this a day after Alex tweeted out a memorial tweet dedicated to Etika. She also continued to tweet about how Alex sent people to stalk and harass her. Alex would go on hiatus for a few months, returning on August 8th with a video about the game Super Mario Sunshine. This video currently sits with 700,000 views. From the outside looking in, the allegations do not appear to have hurt his analytics in the long run. Around the time period of his return in 2019, some users online, specifically Reset Era, were upset about a now-deleted tweet Alex made. The tweet included an image of Princess Peach, which he captioned, "Diving into the good vibes." Like, some people really read into what this tweet possibly meant, so I asked him about it. He says he made the tweet in April or May, and said that people are reading way too much into that tweet. He didn't want to get explicitly into what it meant, but he had a lot going on during that time period. He was shocked I even brought it up to him because he forgot about it, and claimed users on Reset Era seemingly just found an old tweet and brought it up months after he got accused to try and make him look worse. A year following the release of the twitlonger, Ray would take to the Smash Bros subreddit, where her post received 12,000 upvotes. This was during a time period where many figureheads in the Smash community were being accused of horrible things on a very high profile. So this was Ray's best chance to get her story out there, and she came back to tell it once again, this time with more evidence backing up her claims. In this Reddit post were links to Imgur, which contained text messages that helped back up Ray's story of the rape allegation. She claims these existed online since 2019, but they were swept under the rug. These screenshots also seem to perhaps show Alex as an inconsistent narrator. In one series of screenshots, Alex apologizes and says he honestly thought they had both consented to sex, and he also asks her to stay quiet about the situation, which is definitely not a good look. Ray would respond, saying she didn't forgive him. However, in some of the other screenshots, Alex claims they were both drunk and both did not consent. which is different from what he said in the first screenshots I showed you. But it's also different from Ray's original retelling of the story, in which he was sober. Ray was obviously asked about this discrepancy. She retorted that this is simply Alex's new defense, and she maintains that he was sober, claiming at the party he called himself the designated sober guy. Make sure to remember this inconsistency in Alex's texts. It'll come up again later in this video. Also in this conversation, Ray's argument of him lying and actually being sober hinges on the fact he has memory of the night. The issue with this is, you can still have a recollection of events while still being intoxicated and having lowered inhibitions. Blackouts or memory loss is not the only defining characteristic of being drunk. We can also see Alex refusing to give back a painting she made, claiming it as his property. I originally didn't understand why he cares about this painting, but his reasoning is very interesting, and we'll also get to that later. To build on top of her narrative that Alex sends people to talk to her, who he's using to get information out of her, she released screenshots of someone named the Duke of Dorks pledging to her on Patreon. This person was a video editor for Alex and tried talking to her about him. Ray would refund his money. She also shows the screenshot again of Alex's sister following her account. This occurred over an hour after she told Alex to leave her alone. Ray felt that this was a scare tactic. Like I said, Ray's post went super viral in the community. AlphaRad announced on Twitter around this time that he would be removing his content with Alex and competitive Smash players Nairo and Zero, only to later walk back the Nairo part, and publicly supported the claim that Nairo has this alleged 30-page secret document proving his innocence, but he refuses to release it publicly for whatever reason. Oh, and everyone who's apparently read it needs to sign an NDA. Did I forget to mention that AlphaRad recently deleted his tweets supporting Nairo? After the viral Reddit post, Alex had to address the situation once again, but this time in much more detail. It's since been deleted, but it was archived on the Wayback Machine. His video was uploaded on July 10th and was titled, "Addressing the Accusations in My Side." He once again denies the rape and harassment accusations and claims his character is being told incorrectly to fit her narrative.
I want to completely deny all of the accusations she's put forward. The rape accusation, the manipulation to her and others, and the emotional abuse. These are all false.
And events have been miscontextualized. He then goes on to accuse Ray of manipulating the narrative, and she was doing this by calling him a manipulator.
A key component to these claims is that my character has been completely restructured to support her accusations. They've reattributed events surrounding our relationship into meaning something else, which is often over-exaggerated or purposely miscontextualized, not rooted in any proof but suspicion that I'm a devious person. This suspicion is central as it began when we broke up, or I broke up with her in March 2019, as well as a month after when we tried to remain in each other's lives, but it grew toxic. First, many of the claims depend on this character she's labeled me as. The claims that I'm this master manipulator are false. The claim is designed to make you believe certain traits about me while simultaneously being something that can't be refuted because it relies on anecdotal experiences. Also, labeling a manipulator compromises anybody who knows me and the true details about me, which is manipulating the narrative itself.
He also says she only came forward and put out these big statements against him during time periods where other people were doing the same thing. The first time she came forward was around the time of the pro-Jared controversy. The second time, a year later, was when many prominent figures in the Smash community were also being accused.
It's important to say that we cut contact in April 2019, and nothing had changed between us then. We didn't have any contact. Yet these claims were brought up at opportune times, not relating to any change between contact we had, but it aligned with the social climate at the time, and I think that timing is extremely important. From denying evidence from those who genuinely ask, as well as controlling only one side of the narrative, she's manipulating a position in which she'll be believed over me in this climate, to manipulate the emotions of those to believe her, while damning those who don't believe her as those who don't believe victims.
Alex says the rape allegation stems from a Halloween party. They went to a party and both got drunk. They Ubered to Alex's home, which could mean he was possibly far from the designated sober person Ray had mentioned earlier. When they got to his place, they started kissing, which led to sex. Alex claims she initiated this. They experimented with new things, in which Ray consented to. They then got into an argument, and Ray went downstairs to sleep at the bottom of the stairs. Alex offered her the bed, and he'd sleep on the couch, but she denied. He goes on to claim this wasn't the first time they had sex, nor was it the last, nor was it the only time they had sex under the influence.
We were doing shots. People saw me playing and drinking games. I was drinking and others saw my behavior. While I was drunk though, I wasn't blackout drunk. This is when one gets so drunk they have spotty memory of the night. I believe that this was the same for me and Raven because we were both enjoying ourselves. Several witnesses can confirm we were both in good spirits. It was getting late and the party was disbanding, so I called an Uber. We got in, took us back to our house. She was sleeping in the Uber, so I woke her up when we had to go. We went inside and then we went upstairs to my room. This is when the claim allegedly happened. I will go into detail, but not explicitly for respect. She laid in bed and then I did as well. I was under the impression she wanted to sleep, but then she initiated by kissing me and we continued into sex. From here, she consented to everything we did, both audibly and through her actions. I had no reason to believe that this was different from any of the previous times we had sex. I had no reason to believe that she was being taken advantage of. She wasn't in a dangerous position. She could have left and stopped at any time if she wanted. She was participating and we both went at our own pace. A central part of this is we did something different that we hadn't tried before, but both expressed interest in doing prior to this night. So I asked that night if she wanted to try it and she accepted by saying yes. And while we were doing it, I asked if she was okay, which she responded yes to. The accusation is involved with what happened after. This is because the day after, she claimed that she didn't remember parts of the night when we were having sex, i.e. she blacked out fragments of the night. This occurred at the end of October, the beginning of November 2018. We broke up March 2019, and the first time I would heard these claims were rape were May 2019. It's important to note also that this wasn't the first time we had sex, nor was it the last, nor was it the first time we had sex while under the influence. This is to demonstrate that this was not a unique situation to me or her. After we finished, we laid down and talked about the party. At the event, there was a girl there she felt was giving her cut eye and just wasn't speaking to her on purpose. I brushed it off at that moment and told her it was probably nothing, which spiraled into an argument where she said I never believed her about anything she said, and I called her toxic to forcing me to agree with her on everything. The argument continued. She went downstairs to sleep at the bottom of the stairs. I tried to convince her to take my bed and I'd sleep on the couch, but she refused, and I let her do what she wanted. In the morning, however, we discussed the argument we had the night previous, and we went into the day in better spirits, forgiving each other.
And because of this, Alex denies the rape allegation, in that it was consensual.
This is why I stand by denying the rape accusation 100%. It did not happen.
To also help support his claim, he released messages from her asking to get back together with him after they had broken up and after that party. According to Alex, he wanted to remain friends. He offered they both go to a therapist to try and talk out their feelings, although this never happened.
I had hoped that after she cooled off and I cooled off, that maybe we could talk again in a few months and maybe rekindle some sort of friendship. I didn't want to burn the bridge. My goal for the conversation was to take it off the phone and get us to sit in person with an unbiased third party, possibly a therapist, to communicate, because between the both of us, we weren't able to communicate either of how we were feeling. So that's what I offered in the phone call, and I offered it several times, 3 times, and each time she did not accept or she didn't say yes or no.
Before we move on summarizing his video, let's go back to that inconsistency Alex has. In one series of text messages released, he says that he thought they had both consented. Then in another, neither of them had consented. And now with this video, we have gone in a complete circle, and it was consensual.
I gave her full details of what we did and how she and I consented.
I asked Alex about this, and I wanted to know if there was a reason for this. He could not comment. He just says his video is his statement. Now, before we all write him off as completely untrustworthy over this, there's 2 things worth pointing out. First off, he claims he wasn't actually the one physically typing some of these messages. It was someone else typing for him while he was having a panic attack.
It was the morning after where we exchanged our last text messages. And at this point, I was being comforted by my sister, and she was texting for me because I was having a panic attack. She's a witness to that, and this is just to say that she was texting everything that appears in the screenshots, but I did approve everything.
So the wording in some of these isn't likely the best. From my understanding, all of these text messages are from around May 2019. And secondly, this inconsistency doesn't actually change his story. He's still claiming they were both drunk and had sex. His overall essential story stays the same. However, what's being said over time is showcasing two different perspectives of the same original scenario. In one perspective, he and she were both drunk, so he wasn't taking advantage of her because they were both in the same state of mind. In the other perspective, going off of the logic she couldn't consent because she was drunk, then neither he could consent as he was also. And thus, there was still no advantage taking going on. There's an apology in one of these texts. He claims this wasn't an admittance of guilt.
With me offering an apology, not as admittance, but because of the toxicity and pain with how our conversation went, as well as the discomfort she appeared to have felt. To me, there's no harm in apologizing for how she felt or how the relationship ended, because I didn't want to go out on bad terms. At this point, I genuinely wanted to be productive and make things better, so I apologized for the discomfort she had. This screenshot is being taken out of context. We did both consent. Because she's claiming that we did not, here I was expressing that there was no ambiguity to me. We did both consent. Also in this screenshot, I never did this. I would never admit to doing this. And I don't know where she's basing this idea off of. I believe she may be misattributing my apology for admission, which it isn't. I did not rape her.
After denying the allegation, he goes on to accuse Ray of being a toxic person. According to Alex, she would often become tilted and hateful towards people because of very minor things. One example Alex gives is she got really upset when he complimented another woman, or she would get really upset when another woman would be present in Alex's live chat when he would stream, which resulted in her privately spam messaging him during the stream complaining about the woman. In response to the allegation he dangled his wealth in front of her, he shows screenshots of him explaining why he felt uncomfortable letting his partner of only 2 months move in with him.
She said I dangled this opportunity in front of her and then pulled it away. All I did was mention that I was offering it to friends if they needed it. She said she did need it and didn't understand why I felt uncomfortable moving in with a partner that I'd only been with for 2 months. I felt my feelings and boundaries weren't being respected, and I felt she only considered how she was feeling. When I did say I wasn't comfortable, it started a fight, and I was made to feel bad for bringing it up at all.
One thing that I thought was really bizarre in the messages Ray released was discussions of a painting Alex refused to give back. He explains, with evidence, that Ray was threatening him with going public with the rape allegations if he didn't give it back. Not only did he not want to give in to a threat, he also got rid of the painting, so he literally couldn't give it back. And he also didn't want to tell her this because it would make her even more mad.
After this point, she ended up accepting this, but she wanted something on top of this apology, or else she would go public with these accusations. I believe her allegations to be a means to an end, first being indicated by a threat. One of the key parts of her narrative at this point focused on a gift she gave me, a painting, that she demanded I return after the breakup. She felt entitled to have it returned. If I gave her back the painting, she wouldn't follow through with the accusation and put it behind us. If this sounds unrealistic, there is a history in our messages throughout the months from March to May where she persistently asked me to return this painting, as well as other gifts that she gave me. So why didn't I just return it then? Other than not giving in to someone who was threatening me, I couldn't return it because I had thrown it out. I threw it out sometime in April when she started slandering me online, calling me an abusive ex, and it hurt. I felt betrayed, and I just didn't want any memory of her in my house anymore. So I didn't bring it up in those screenshots because I was afraid. I was being threatened, and the last thing I wanted to do was get her even more angry.
Alex also responds to the allegation he sent people, specifically Patreon supporters, after her. He told the supporters on Patreon that he was taking a week off due to personal reasons, but he never said anything specific about her. In a super exclusive group chat with certain patrons of his that he considered his friends, he mentioned he had a breakup, but once again, doesn't mention her specifically, nor did he tell them to harass or talk to her. He also denied sending his family and video editor after her.
Similarly, I've been accused of sending my friends and family after her on Twitter, which is false. I didn't send anybody. They heard that their friend was being dumpstered online and they wanted to see the source of the lies, and they went to her Twitter to check it out.
His sister followed her on Twitter simply because she wanted to see what Ray was saying about her brother.
In one example, my famously technologically unsavvy sister tried to follow her locked account, not understanding that would show that she is related to me, and I believe this may be the root of where Raven thinks that I sent people after her, when in reality, it's just people checking something you're saying. That's the point of Twitter.
And his video editor reached out just trying to hear her side.
She's also claimed that I sent my editor, the Duke of Dorks, after her, and that I have a network of associates that do my bidding. But for him, he went out of his own way to make his own actions, and he's apologized to me for doing that because I didn't even have knowledge that he went out of his way to talk to her. I believe he was trying to speak to both of us as a neutral third party, and he's made his own claims and his own statement on his own Twitter.
Also, there's a small inconsistency I've noticed with Ray's call-out posts regarding this point. Before she wrote the tweet longer, she claimed Alex's sister requested to follow her 30 minutes after she said she wanted to be left alone. In the Reddit post, she stated Alex's sister requested only a few minutes after saying that. However, in her screenshots she showcased in the Reddit post, indicated it was about an hour and 30 minutes after. Not to mention, in August 2019, she changed her claim to Alex had his extended family contact her. Her evidence is still that one screenshot of his sister requesting to follow. The way she worded this tweet makes it sound like she also wrote Ray a message on Alex's behalf. He ends the video discussing how he wants to take the proper legal actions and discusses why he took so long to respond. He says he'll return to making YouTube videos when he feels better. Specifically, he discussed making another video about other allegations thrown his way. He did later make a second response, although it was lost media. I had no idea it even existed until I started asking around about this story. I eventually got my hands on a copy. This second video is rather uninteresting, but since it's part of the story, I'd feel bad not mentioning it. It's regarding drama in his Patreon Discord server, which led to someone writing a 50-page document about it.
The basis of these claims against me mainly involved this patron claiming me, as well as my mods on the Patreon Discord server, mistreated them, which centralizes around something they wanted to be given within the Discord server. On Discord, you can give roles to people that allow them to access certain chats. The role was given to veteran patrons that have been around the longest, and those I felt comfortable with were given this role, and it gave access to one chat. The veterans chat is something I made for older supporters and ones I became friends with outside of just being fans.
Alex's video explains how the person who wrote the document had been unpleasant to deal with, and he showed screenshots of them just saying things that made Alex and other Discord members uncomfortable.
This person had a history on our server as well as with me personally. They demonstrated behavior that was passive-aggressive, someone who created conflict, was obsessive with me, and they were entitled and hostile on a few occasions. Later, they had been kicked out or left the server on their own several times, and at one point, they had been very active, so I let them be a mod. I thought it was a good idea at the time, but in these instances, they took it too far and started treating it as a job, as well as being irresponsible with it and starting an ARG. Other than this user had made me feel uncomfortable in the past in our private discussions. Nothing outright problematic, but I was made to feel uncomfortable with how they spoke about me and how they spoke as if they were close to me. They'd keep pushing their pledge higher when I told them that wasn't necessary, but they insisted that they wanted to support me more and more. And while I appreciate them supporting me in this way, I made a point that I wouldn't treat them any differently, no matter how much they spent on me. They'd speak to my friend and say they'd go to Canada to come to a convention where me and my friends live close to, and thought that we'd all hang out as friends when we didn't know them like that. Between me and my friends, that brought us discomfort. They would request from another mod to speak to them about getting their status back, and then speaking to me to get their status back, and even had a call with that mod asking, while recording them without their permission, over this role. They would then message me a flowery message about their pledge, and when I didn't immediately reply, they got pushy. Then they asked in an entitled way to receive this role back. And as you can see from this message, they then acted entitled to receive more. And my reply here is consistent with how I feel now, so I won't add more to it. After this point, I removed them from the server and my Patreon because I was drained from having to deal with these constant issues with this one user, offered to give them their pledge back as well, which they refused.
While Alex tried to be nice, in the end it didn't work out. After addressing this one individual, Alex also responds to past statements and jokes he made that were controversial. He apologizes for those previous statements and jokes, saying he now believes and understands that they were wrong to say.
Now, I know that I'm not as ignorant anymore, but I still feel I should apologize and put forward an apology because, you know, I'm disappointed in myself, as well as I feel that if I offended or made anyone feel othered, that's not something I ever want as a creator. So I am sorry. I recognize that my language was harmful in the past, and I'm not proud of it in the slightest, but I've looked over it and addressed it with myself even before making this video, and recognize that I've grown and these don't reflect me anymore.
Nowadays, both Alex and Ray's careers seem to be doing well. Ray has a good-sized audience discussing lost media and anime. She is also now starting to become a voice actress. Alex would return to posting YouTube content in September 2020 with a video about Mario Kart Double Dash, and he's been back since then, even making his own video game. As of now, his videos still receive hundreds of thousands of views. He has a fan base on X, formerly Twitter, and he still gets to appear in collaborations with bigger creators like Scott the Woz in his giant special called Borderline Forever. For a little bit. Following the release of the video in 2021, Scott received backlash for Alex's appearance from members of Reset Era and from Ray herself, with her claiming she had previously warned Scott, but he ignored her. Another content creator who appeared in Scott's video would make a subtweet questioning whether he was a good guy or not, with Ray supporting her. Due to all of this, Scott would use YouTube's built-in video editor to remove Alex's cameo from the video. Ray would seemingly respond with a subtweet of Scott, asking her audience if they would accept an apology from someone who acted out of malice, and only offered an apology because they were afraid of something being leaked, ending the tweet by saying she was on the fence with accepting because she thought the apology wasn't genuine. Alex never commented on the situation when it transpired, but now he's decided to break his silence about it. It was painful. Scott and I were friends, we talked plenty before then. When the Borderline video dropped, there was a group of users harassing YouTubers that cameoed in that video. So much so that Scott couldn't ignore it. Scott was rightfully scared and felt threatened, and it was imaginably a difficult thing for him to navigate. He's not some business, he's just a dude, you know what I mean? What he ended up deciding was it was easier removing a 2-second clip of one person than even marginally getting into controversy. Regardless of how shitty it was for him, for me it was a friend deciding my dignity was not worth standing up for. Like choosing self-preservation instead of doing what's right. Maybe that's overdramatic phrasing, but like I would never do that to a friend. It really hurts. When I asked Alex if he and Scott were friends, he said no. According to Alex, Scott believes he's innocent. I want to point out, Alex does want to make it clear he's not trying to tear down Scott or anything. He was hesitant to even speak about this. I reached out to Scott about this. Here is his response. Thank you for reaching out and watching throughout the years. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to give my perspective, but I think it would also be important to reach out to Raven for her perspective as well, which I'm sure you've done. I just think it's important she approves of this video being made due to the nature of the topic. In all honesty, I could see how Alex would think I think that way, but that's not the case. Regarding Alex's cameo in Borderline Forever, at the time, Alex had professed his innocence to me multiple times, in addition to the tumultuous nature of their relationship before the allegations came out. I believed him off the bat as he described it as just a bad breakup, and I regarded him as a friend at the time. He is somebody who I was closer to in the creator community, and I had a level of gratitude for him since he gave me a shout out, and that boosted the amount of attention my channel was getting. He continued to call Raven a liar, say she was dramatic, and so on. I think I was naive to believe him so quickly at the time because I didn't understand the severity of the situation, and especially because in all actuality, I do not know him that well as a person. I have done a lot of growing emotionally in the past couple of years, and have educated myself on the topic of SA, and realize now anyone can commit assault, no matter how well you think you know the person or their character or how close they are to you. I removed Alex from the video because it was the right thing to do. I didn't plan on including him in the video originally, but he specifically asked to be included when I tweeted asking others if they would like to participate late into the production, and I let him in without thinking it through enough. Immediately, the backlash came about after Borderline Forever was released, and honestly, rightfully so. I removed Alex then because I do believe in the sake of right for the sake of right. It was not about the controversy or me being scared. At first, it did shake me a bit, but I quickly came to the realization that I had offended Raven and other victims of sexual assault. I felt like it was a slap in the face to her for me to have him in the video. I really looked into the other side of things for the first time, and it was wrong for me to take that long. It's something I regret deeply. And upon looking into it, it had become increasingly clear I was wrong to defend or believe him in any way just for the sake of friendship or because I had appreciated what he had done for me in the past. To tell you the truth, I don't know if he's innocent or not. I just know statistically and through my personal experiences with men and women in my life, people do not often lie about being assaulted. I am no judge, I am no jury, nor do I think my opinion should matter. I am no longer friends with Alex, and it's not particularly due to the controversy caused by his cameo. But I do not think the way the allegations were handled is something I could ever approve of, innocent or not. Looking back, several things he had told me about her, or how he framed things that, quote, she might tell me, end quote, were an attempt to manipulate the situation. I think it should be noted she never spoke ill of him to me outside of the situation, nor did she try to degrade his character as a whole. This is just my personal and limited view on the circumstances. Again, I don't think my opinion matters that much at the end of the day. I do not think this is a topic to take lightly or to be used for entertainment, and I hope you do seek Raven's approval as well for this project. Thank you again for reaching out, Michael, and giving me the opportunity to explain my actions that I undoubtedly regret, and not for my own sake. I was not the victim and never will be, no matter what backlash has come out in the past or will come out in the future, and I am thankful for those who have called me out for my misdirections. Scott. One thing that's interesting about this case is Alex's first response from 2019 remains online. Meanwhile, his 2 videos were removed. They were basically lost media until I dug them back up. One anonymous source I spoke to who was against Alex claimed the videos were removed because he had foolishly threatened a lawsuit in his video. He got countersued and he then privately backed down, afraid of evidence against him. I asked Alex why this video was removed. He says he's not allowed to answer why his video has been removed, and simply said that his video is his response to everything. Ray also said at one point he sent a libel notice to her as an intimidation tactic, and that she filed a police report. So it does seem his videos were taken down due to legal issues. However, I've never seen any legal documents, and I would also like to point out that his video no longer being online doesn't automatically prove he's guilty of the worst crime he's been accused of. The original statement denying the sexual assault is still up. Although some might say that's simply because it's rather vague and doesn't even name Ray. So it makes sense if you were getting involved in a lawsuit, you would just focus on the very recent popular video, not the old Twitter statement that was clearly handled by a lawyer and doesn't get into anything specific. It's just a denial. This is a complex case, and because of that, I'm not super confident in taking a stance on who is innocent and who is guilty, and I feel it would be irresponsible of me to take the evidence I have gathered and try to speculate on what's the truth. This video exists to document and summarize a story involving serious allegations of a major content creator that's been forgotten about, and also to present new information relating to the case. You're free to come to any conclusion you wish with the information I've presented. responded. Before I close out this video, I asked some of the individuals I contacted if they had some sort of final or general statement. When I asked Alex, I also added if he wished he did anything different with his response. Only Alex responded to me. He said the following: I wish I could have responded more confidently and faster, but due to my anxiety, most of the time I was mostly trying to stay healthy and live normal, let alone being able to get up and think straight. I wish I could have had the wherewithal to make it perfect, but I really had to handle it all on my own. As for anything else, no, that's it. I hope I was helpful.